Let me tell you what the big problem today politically is. We have a choice between socialist, regressive identitarianism, and conservatives. And what do you think regular people are going to pick when presented with those two options? If you're going to ask me, if I had to make a choice, and I don't right now, it's not that bad yet, but it's getting there. Like if there were seriously only two people, and one was a socialist, regressive identitarian, another guy was conservative, and I had to choose, I definitely would choose the conservative. Right now, we're not there yet. We still have some people who are actually pretty good running. But this is why I'm very much opposed to the violations of speech. I'm very much opposed to the regressive left. I mean, it's not so much like, that's not so much a reason why I'm opposed to them, but I am. In this story from the College Fix, university gets legal warning for enforcing speech rules against conservatives, but not socialists. The main culture war talking points we see are intersectional feminists and everyone who opposes them. And so that puts moderate liberal types like me against them. In this, that's why I brought it up in the beginning. But in this story, the reason I bring it up is that there were socialists tabling, and they were allowed to do it with no problem. And the conservatives, when they tabled later, were threatened and shut down and told they had to go to a free speech zone. So this is the inherent problem. There is institutional bias in favor of what I perceive to be a regressive a religion, a non-theistic religion, essentially. And conservatives who are closer to the mainstream can't table and talk about what is absolutely mainstream conversation. So that's, to me, worrisome. Now, before we get started with this story, make sure you go to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly donation option, a cryptocurrency option, a physical address, but of course, share the video, comment, and like, because the engagement really helps. So let's check out this story from the College Fix. The campus speech policies at Transylvania University are getting unwanted national attention at a time of transition for Kentucky's oldest university. The Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, known as FIRE, they're an awesome organization, by the way, warned the administration earlier this month that its policies promote viewpoint-based decision-making and enact prior restraints on student speech in violation of its other promises to students. The private university has a single free speech zone, and students must fill out paperwork and get approval before using it. Now, personally, I disagree with the idea of a free speech zone. I have a permit. It's called the First Amendment. And you see people on the left say the same thing. People on the right should be saying the same thing. Completely, I believe 100%. We have a right to peaceably assemble. The Constitution doesn't say where or when, so they, set up free speech zones. No, get out of here. If I want to gather and I want to talk about something, you can't stop me, especially in a public university. The precipitating event for FIRE's involvement was the administration's shutdown of a Young Americans for Freedom free speech tabling event. Is it? Talk about ironic. A day after it allowed the Young Democratic Socialists of America to table for their own cause. So let's, here's what happened. Democratic Socialists table, no problem. Conservatives table for free speech and have their free speech restricted. That is quite literally like seeing a fire truck being set on fire by a university. Jeez. Alex Drury, chairman of Transylvania's Young Americans, Young American for Freedom chapter, told the College Fix that theirs is the only conservative libertarian group on campus. It has tried to host a number of engaging events, but most fall short due to the extreme bureaucracy in place at the university. He said the Transylvania University has a number of anti-free speech policies which discourage the free speech of all students. The administration has to know literally every written word on signs and literature on campus and every message you are trying to spread so they can make sure they know exactly what you are doing and when. And this is why free speech is so important. Look at what's happening right now with the ideological bias. Let's say your favorite color is blue and my favorite color is green. And then the rule is put in place saying you are not allowed to discuss your favorite color. Okay, we all agree there's a rule. I show up and I start preaching about why green is the best. No one comes to shut me down. A bunch of people hear me, we have conversations. Tomorrow you show up saying blue is better, and they immediately come and say, no, you're not allowed to speak. That's how the authority, the system, will use the rules selectively to allow their ideology to grow. And what the left doesn't seem to understand, and I say the left because passive liberals pretty much aren't paying attention, but the regressive leftists who oppose free speech don't seem to understand, that as soon as you enact these policies, yes, You're trying to use the, rules for thee but not for me to your advantage. Assuming you can maintain that position of authority, sure. But eventually someone else will come in and they'll say, we're going to do the exact same thing you did. Restrict the left and only allow the right. And they can claim some, technicality. They can say, oh no, it was because of X, Y, or Z. And then what they'll do is, plain and simple, the people who run the system will allow those they like to speak, those they don't like not to speak. And it's exactly what we see on Twitter and Facebook. So think about it. If you're a conservative and you're trying to speak about something that is, like the reason I brought this up in the beginning, way closer to the mainstream than the fringe regressive psychosis, they'll shut you down. They will shut you down. If you say that you have an issue with biological males competing against biological females, shut you down. But if you say ridiculous things on Twitter, just like talking about weird, there was one tweet that was, the meme where it's like, damn white people on there, shuffles deck, pulls out card, X. There was one about how someone donated T-shirts to a community center run by by some black individuals, and they blamed white people, saying we don't need T-shirts and now we have garbage to dispose of. And it's like, that's the kind of insanity. That's not against the rules. I'm just saying that's the stuff that goes crazy on the left. And a lot of what they do, they're allowed to break the rules. Like the easiest example, Sarah Jong, for years, just going on racist tirades. Totally okay. That stuff's fine. Twitter runs the system and claims, no, we're not biased. See, we took this people down. Then they ban the Krasensteins, if you don't know, they're the anti-Trump personalities, and then say, see, we ban people. That's the game they play. But all they have to do is let 1% of their side through the cracks, and their ideology has a massive advantage. This is why free speech is a right. Because we don't want authority figures and massive, unaccountable systems or people to restrict the free exchange of information. That is regressive, not progressive. These people are trying to bring us back to the Dark Ages when we weren't allowed to learn things. And it's perfectly exemplified by what happens in this university. Conservatives wanted to have a free speech table, and it was shut. They were told they had to move. They had to shut it down and go to a free speech zone. Meanwhile, the socialists are okay. They say, the administration has to know literally I read that part. The student body sides with Young Americans for Freedom against universities' restrictions on free speech, according to the results of a survey that they distributed. Nearly 9 in 10 students hold negative sentiments toward the policies. The survey response rate was just over 10%, 103 students out of the university's 989. Free speech is an issue important to all students, jury said. And the fact that this administration has so blatantly tried to restrict it, that has really angered a lot of students, faculty, alumni, and donors. The administration refused to talk to the Fix before graduation on Saturday, even to answer questions about potential policy revisions, as opposed to the Young Americans for Freedom incident itself. This is one university, and it's the Kentucky's oldest. It's not the biggest in the country, but I think that I think it's important because how many stories do we see about the bias at universities until it becomes completely apparent? Like this is blatant. That rules for thee and not for me. How many stories about various universities, bias, Title IX, etc. do we have to hear until we realize, yeah, these people, the staff, the faculty are very regressive. And it's why I think, you'll hear more nuance from the Sokol Squared hoax people like Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, who accurately point out, listen, the right is not perfect. The left is being, at universities is being dominated by grievance studies, and that's dangerous anti-science. But what ends up happening to a lot of people is when they see this, they align themselves with more than just free speech. And so I'll make a point about something because people are like, they say things like Tim's on the left or how is Tim actually liberal, blah, blah, blah. Because it's not about tribe. I don't care about your tribe. I don't care if you're following the conga line because everyone else is dancing around. I have things I believe based on my research. And I will point to the crazy rule breaking, the people who claim to enforce the rules, but then defend their own side to break the rules. I'll call them out. I don't care. I got no tribe and I don't care. Okay. I have principles and there are things that I believe in. So I think one of the dangerous things about what the left does in terms of this is there are a lot of people I know who will see a story like this and they will say, I believe in free speech. Therefore, they'll go and move themselves. It moves people to the right. More importantly, though, It's not like most people joining, becoming right-wing or conservative because of these problems are doing it for tribal reasons. It's also because when you do this, you guarantee the only ideas people can hear in like actual conversation, not in these specific, university institutions, is going to be from, hold on, let me clarify. Let me back up. The left doesn't like doing interviews. The left doesn't like sitting down and having conversations to a certain degree, right? I don't want to say everybody, but there are enough people who won't do it. And so what happens is you have conservatives who always want to talk, always want to challenge ideas. And then when you see the censorship, you're going to have people saying, but I believe in free speech. They're going to go and talk to these individuals, and then they're going to hear more ideas, and it's going to be a powerful recruiting tool for the right. You can't restrict people's freedom. People don't like that. And when you do, you are giving fuel to the other side. So the good example is the video I made the other day on my main channel about how the anti-Trump artist gets banned from Facebook. That's the censorship they called for, and now Facebook's enforcing it. And then you have Lauren Southern's documentary, which got censored, and then Streisand's effects and gets hundreds of thousands of views. So anyway, let me wrap this up, because the point I'm trying to make is it's not surprising that we see another story about universities shutting down conservatives or restricting them in some way, being anti-speech, but allowing socialists and democratic socialists to skirt the rules. Because that's everything we see on social media. So ultimately, I think this thing is going to backfire. It's bad, but regardless of whether or not it does, we got to defend free speech and the right to express our ideas and talk to each other, plain and simple. I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got more segments coming up later in the day. For those on the podcast, it will be starting shortly, and I will see you in the next segment.